welcome to Miskatonic University Radio, a podcast and live stream exploring Fantasy Flight Games' Arkham Horror, the card game. I'm Dane.
I'm Dan.
And I'm Ben.
And we finally got here. Today, we are at the end of the edge of the Earth. Spoilers, there is no actual edge of the Earth. The Earth is actually round. But we do have some good old spicy hot card reviews to keep you warm.
Yeah, we like to talk about shapes a lot on this podcast. The Earth is actually a sphere. That's a little known fact.
Yep.
So it doesn't really have an edge as such.
Back to the capital F.
It's in a metaphorical sense. All bets are off. Who knows?
This is true.
This is the fifth of 5 episodes covering these player cards. Right, we've definitely been there were so many new cards, very exciting. Today we get to talk about the last ones.
They've been some long episodes, so appreciate y'all for hanging in there, and we'll get back to our regularly scheduled programming of Question Mark after this.
I mean, yeah, what really matters is for people to hear our opinions about cards, right? And most importantly, what also matters is for us to state our opinions about cards early enough that it's quite likely we will be proven hilariously wrong.
It's true.
Which is kind of a tradition on this podcast. So,
I mean,
with all of that, and
these cards have been out so long by now, we've actually used some of them. So we look at the blind right as they come out. So
yep, that is true. That is.
This extremely long release model has given us the opportunity to try some of them, although not this first one.
Yeah, with that in mind, let's just start reading these. I'll read the first one. So first up, we have Nkosi Mabadi, more like Nkosi Mabadi. Am I right? Am I? I don't know. I guess I should finish reading the card before we start talking about it. So this is a Guardian and Mystic level 3 asset. It's cost 4. It has 2 willpower icons. It's an ally and a sorcerer. And it has a reaction. After Nkosi Mabadi enters play, name a non-Elder Sign Chaos token with a symbol. Until this card leaves play, the named symbol is your sigil. And then reaction. When an investigator at your location reveals a spooky token, actually a cultist, tablet, or Elder Thing symbol, exhaust Nkosi Mabadi, search the Chaos bag for your sigil, and reveal it instead, returning the other token to the Chaos bag. And it takes up the ally slot, and it has 2 health and 2 sanity. So this guy is kind of he's like a token manipulation, kind of a, chaos bag manipulation kind of a guy, right?
Yeah. The first thing that, so he's coming out in Edge of the Earth, so you're imagining that, that you're revealing these bad things, and then you're going to replace it with something that's going to benefit you for, everybody in the world immediately thought of Jim, because why wouldn't you think of Jim? You're welcome, Colin. This is the Jim card, but there's also another use case in Bless and Curse tokens, in that you can force it to pull a Bless or a Curse token to help your Bless/Curse builds happen.
And I think in these colors, well, I guess you could play a Mystic that wants to draw Curse tokens. It seems like it's more likely that you might be playing a Guardian that wants to draw Bless tokens. But yeah, you could certainly do that with it. You can also do like Dane said, you could also just play Jim and you want to draw skulls all the time. Or even if you were playing not Jim and you wanted to play the weird spells what's the weird one where it does extra damage if you find a weird token,
Armageddon? Or
no? So you're talking about Shards of the Void?
Yeah, old cards that no one ever plays. But I guess you can't even do that because it has to be a chaos token with a symbol. So
that one has Animate Extra on it, so a lot of people like that card.
That is true. Yeah, a lot of people are very interested in that card.
Yes.
This is a very Animate Extra.
I mean.
So looking at this guy though, so there's a lot of allies in the game now. You got a lot of options. If you're a Mystic, you've got Dr. Renfield, you've got Arcane Initiate, you've got some other choices. If you're a Guardian, you got lots of options. You got Beat Cop. Even if you're a Blessed Tokens Guardian, you have the Nephthys. So there's other choices there. What kind of deck would you be playing if you decide this is my guy, this is the ally that I want first? What kind of deck would that be?
What's going on, Timmy? I think the best deck that I could think of to do this would be Blesses. Would be like something to do with pulling Blesses out. I think like the symbols get really scary in the harder modes, right? Like Dan and I are playing through the Return to the Circle and None right now, and there's a lot of just like straight up, -4 take a damage, or like just a lot of auto things. So it might help in that respect too, to like mitigate that to some extent. But and 2 symbols to like commit, not that you really want to commit him, but he's a little expensive, so like you could consider playing him in that kind of environment, but honestly
good for well prepared. Right,
So you guys,
right, Colin?
you guys are both wrong. The correct deck to use this in is a troll deck, because you can pick the auto fail as your sigil and make it so it's much easier to auto fail.
Yeah,
Auto fail every test, or a lot more tests for everybody.
Well, no, because think about it. The survivor in your team can get their take heart to fire every time.
Yeah,
right?
That's true.
So it's actually great.
You combo it with a survivor that has take heart and double drawing thin. Yeah, I do. Because auto fail is usually like you fail a test. Sometimes the spooky symbols are like you fail a test and you take a horror or something. So like auto fail is better to draw when you're trying to fail a test with take heart or being stellar or whatever. Then
I have a question for Rules Master Ben. Maybe the first of multiple questions.
Uh-oh.
What happens if you choose a sigil and then someone seals the last copy of that symbol that's in the bag? So your sigil is no longer in the bag.
Then you wouldn't be able to trigger the reaction because you can't reveal it instead of the symbol you have. Right.
Okay.
So like because you can't trigger something when you can't trigger an effect when the effect doesn't do anything. So
okay. Another question. I don't even know if this matters, but suppose you picked the tablet as your sigil. If you drew a tablet, could you search the chaos bag for another tablet and reveal it instead of the first tablet? I don't know why that would matter.
Technically, yes. I'm not sure why you'd want to do that. But I guess you technically could. Maybe in the future when we have like the super tablet that has the same symbol but like a gold border or
can't wait for that. Can't wait for that super tablet. So I think like I really do like the idea of Ben's troll deck. That's a fun idea. The reason I'm not super pumped about this for like blessed decks is, you put a bunch of blessed tokens in the bag. It's already kind of a crapshoot whether you're going to draw one when you want one or not, right? This doesn't really make it that much. It doesn't really get rid of that much uncertainty. It just increases the odds a little bit. Like it basically effectively turns maybe like 3 tokens in the bag probably into blessed tokens, which is nice. But what you really want is something like Favor of the Sun, where you just like can definitely get one when you need it. Right?
Also fast.
Yeah, exactly. And this is like the fact that this costs 3 XP and 4 resources and takes up your ally slot. That just seems like kind of a high price to pay for something that like isn't really changing the odds that much. Am I being too pessimistic, as I often am, or is that kind of right? What do you guys think?
So one thing that's interesting about this, I guess, is that it like interacts with the tokens in a weird way. I was gonna make a joke about like, ha, you can just put this out with Diana and then like put him under Diana, but he doesn't actually cancel or like do anything that Diana wants to do and to put her under him. It just says that you exhaust him to search it and reveal it instead. So it's not like you're
cancel a symbol.
It's like a weird replacement effect, and
yeah.
I don't know if we've seen that before on a card, but that gets around some weird weaknesses, like I think nihilism. No, not nihilism. What's the Jackie's weakness? It's like you can't cancel auto fails or
Dark
something,
Future?
or you can't. Yeah. You can't cancel like anything that says you can't cancel something. He doesn't technically cancel it. He'll like just redraw it. So that might be an interesting reason to play him. But I don't. To get to your point though, Dan, I don't think that you're being pessimistic. I think it's tough to find a specific place. Timmy in chat said like a scavenging gym to like continue to get grotesque statues back. Might be a fun build, but tough to see it being completely efficient though.
I like the guy's robes. Very, very cool. Very snazzy.
Yeah, he's an enigmatic too.
Yeah. I think we're all a little bit enigmatic in our own way. Right? Everyone's a little bit enigmatic. Anything else to say about this guy, or should we move along?
Move on to the strangest card for me anyway
do it.
in this set.
Yeah, nothing else to say about this gym card. So
Yeah. The next card is Old Shotgun. It is a Guardian and Rogue card. It is level 2, costs 0 to play. It's an asset. It has a combat icon on it. It's an item, weapon, and a firearm, and it uses 0 ammo. While playing an event, treat Old Shotgun's uses value as 2. Action, spend 1 ammo, fight. You get +3 combat for this attack. Instead of its standard damage, this attack damage is equal to the amount that you succeed by or fail by. If you fail and would damage another investigator to a minimum, if you fail and would damage another investigator to a minimum of 1 to a maximum of 3. So, and it takes up 2 hand slots. This card really confused me when we first played it, when we first saw it. But from my understanding, it's if you play something with like contraband or something, or if you play like extra ammunition, it like opens like a rules window where you can dump ammo on it. Is that right?
Well, I mean, if you play contraband, while you're playing contraband, the use is 2 ammo. So that means, wait, no, contraband doubles the amount of ammo that's on it already, or is it level 2 contraband? Right. Okay, no, level 2. No, what the no contraband? What do you do with contraband? So when I think it's like if you play like sleight of hand to get it out, which you can't do with taboo, but if you
oh no.
Well, okay, so what is funny is if you swift reload while you're playing swift reload, it's considered to have uses 2, so you don't put more bullets in it, so it just doesn't do anything,
right? Swift reload,
like extra ammo would work on it. Contraband probably does, I think, although I'm not totally sure. But swift reload, I think, would not put any permanent bullets on it.
Swift reload says place ammo on the asset until its ammo equal to its uses X value. So while you play swift reload, its uses would be 2. So if it had no bullets on it, it would put 2 bullets on it.
Oh, I thought swift reload was like add bullets until it has the same number of bullets on it as its uses value.
Right, but while you're playing an event, its uses value is 2.
But also while you're okay, I got it. So so when you're playing an event, it doesn't actually put bullets on it. It just
right. It just makes its text say 2.
See, so, what I was thinking was like this is a gun that is meant to so that you can only use it when you're playing like a fight event that only works with a firearm, because there's a lot of fight events that are like fast play this when you activate a firearm asset. Like there's one that's like spend a bunch of bullets, and each bullet that you spend is like you get to draw an extra chaos token and then pick the best one. And I don't remember what it's called because it's not very good, and none of these cards are very good. But I thought it was basically like a gun that you play if you want to build a deck around those types of cards.
I see what you mean.
Yeah.
But you're right. Like swift reload would actually put 2 bullets on it.
Yeah, I can't remember what the name of the card is. Riddle's Ass Boys or something. I don't.
I'm trying to think of a
ammo would too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and you could use like what's the Guardian ally that lets you like convert supplies into ammo?
Supplier.
Venturer. Like you could use Venturer to like at least put ammo on it. I don't know. Like it's 0 to play, which isn't nothing, right?
It seems yeah.
It's just the payoff. The payoff for doing all this is not great. Like the payoff is you get a not quite as good shotgun because it doesn't. The most damage you can do with it is 3, and I feel like the fun part of shotgun is trying to do like 5 damage.
I mean, yeah, but a 2. I mean, it's like a 2 cost or 2 experience card that does 3 damage potentially. We don't see that many of those. No, I mean it costs 2 experience and 0 to play. Yeah, so like if you have a way to like reload it that's not too intense in towards of
it's
in
just
terms of like your cost, you could do it up. I don't know. Oh, yeah, someone in chat mentioned that you could like play with Ever Vigilant. That would bring it into play with 2 ammo.
Oh, interesting. Really?
I mean,
yeah.
I mean, like if Cash 3 like worked for ammo tokens, not supplies. If it was as easy to put bullets on things as it is like secrets and charges, I would be a little more interested in this. But it's kind of hard to put more ammo on things. There's really only like 3 or 4 cards that do it.
Yeah, there's not a lot.
And the issue is most people that can play this can play either the original shotgun or the sawed-off shotgun, right? Like the only people who can't play those that can play this are like people with like off-class level 2 Guardian or Rogue, like Joe Diamond, I guess, can play
Yorick.
this. Yeah, William Yorick. It's people like that, or even
Those
like
people.
like Dexter, I guess, can play this. Like there's a lot of random.
Oh, interesting.
There's a lot of random investigators like that, but it's not generally amazing, right? Like this isn't generally great.
I think like the theme and like what they're going for with like kind of what it's supposed to do, like what it's supposed to represent. It's like an old shotgun you found in a shed, some like double-barreled shotgun that's not actually meant for murdering like huge monsters and not ready for that at all, is really cool. I feel like it's like a weirdly very Dunwich card. It's just like something you'd find in a shed in Dunwich somewhere. And like that's kind of exactly the environment that somebody might take it in, because like Dunwich, you don't have a lot of experience. So like this, if you can get this, and the ever vigilant thing is kind of neat. If you can just like somehow guarantee like with stick to the plan and ever vigilant and just get 2 old shotguns, and you can just play this very reliably with 2 ammo on it, I don't think it's actually that bad. It's not as bad as I thought it was. I thought it was just completely, I've never played this card. But that actually seems like a neat sort of thing.
It does. I mean, the flavor, yeah, it does remind me of, you can imagine kind of like a horror movie where the protagonist like finally finds a shotgun on the wall, but like there's no shells in it, and the shells are in the barn, and to get to the barn, we got to sneak past the monster. Like, that's all very cool. I don't think I'm ever gonna play this. Like this is a lot of hoops to jump through to get a pretty mediocre payoff. Is what it seems like.
It seems like an interesting card, like from like a story perspective. Like if this were given to you for free in a story as like a Guardian who like already has some ammo stuff in it, then sure, yeah, I'll put it in my deck. Maybe I can do stuff with it. Maybe it'll just be a commit. But like as a 2 experience card that you're consciously spending to get in your deck, maybe not so, unless you're actually like preparing for it.
I mean, I think you could try to build around it. I don't know if there's enough cards to support it right now. Like if you get it out with Ever Vigilant and you like run Venturers and you like play Contraband or extra ammo or something so you can reload it. It is a 0 cost weapon, so that's something you get out for free, but you gotta spend stuff to put ammo on it. So
Bad Boy is suggesting AOD it, which is definitely funny. But the problem is that like with AOD, it doesn't really matter the fact that it costs anything, because even if it had a cost, you would get it back after you AOD it, right? So it's kind of and in fact, doesn't AOD like the bonus to combat is equal to the cost of it, so you want,
which is 0.
Yeah, you want something that costs like 3 or 4 for AOD, really. What I think would be funny is imagine if this had another fight action on it, which was like club something with it.
That would be cool.
But then maybe it breaks. Like that would just be cool,
like a baseball bat or something.
Because maybe going back to the kind of like really thematic horror movie thing, maybe you like finally find 2 shells, shoot twice, then you can't find any more shells, so then you just like break it over the head of something. That would be kind of fun.
That'd be neat. But I like this card. As weird as it is.
I've been playing a lot of Halo Master Chief Collection, and the tricky thing about that is, I mean, obviously great games, but they definitely like slightly changed the controller layout for literally every Halo game compared to the previous one. So when you go back and play one, like the Halo games are all pretty much the same, but like you run towards something and you try to hit it, and you're like, oh, is this B or right bumper? Well, let's see whether I reload or hit this alien in the face with a gun. We'll see. It's like it's a little surprise every time.
Yeah.
Anything else to say about Old Shotgun? No?
I don't think so.
I think it's time to move on to the next card, or pair of cards. On the trail, we have a Guardian Seeker event. There's a level 1 version and a level 3 version. The level 1 version costs 1, has an intellect and an agility icon. It's an insight and a tactic. Choose an enemy at any location other than yours. Either move twice towards an enemy or discover 1 clue at any empty location between you and the chosen enemy along the shortest path to reach that enemy. The level 3 version gains an intellect icon and a combat icon. And the effect is choose an enemy at any location other than yours. Move twice towards that enemy. Discover 1 clue at each location you entered by this effect. So the higher level version, you can potentially get extra clues, and you also get the move effect. So you don't have to choose between the clues or move effect.
Yeah.
The art features a man with a lantern and 2 dogs. So
2 dogs is better than 1 dog.
the dogs don't seem that interested in actually looking around though, actually smelling. The theme of this is like you're following the trail of clues or whatever. So this is probably like this might be very good for Rougarou, right?
That's a weird.
You could just chase the Rougarou around the map.
Yeah.
And it might be okay if you're like playing Ursula and Monterey Jack and you're not like picking up all the clues after each location before you move. But other than that, it's kind of weird because I feel like there's not too many scenarios where there's like a lot of clues in between you and an enemy, such that you'd want to like play a whole card that lets you move and get clues. The level 3.
Go ahead, Ben.
The level 3 version is definitely like way more playable than the level 1 version because the level 1 version's like the action compression is you get to move twice or you get to testlessly discover 1 clue. Which I don't know if that's worth you can compare it to I already forgot the name. What's the fast hunch
card?
Hunch card. Working a hunch.
Working a hunch.
Costs 2 and is fast and you get a clue testlessly. Like this costs 1 but it's not fast and it costs an experience. So I think it's rough to compare it to that.
It's like it just seems like it doesn't really do a lot, right? Like, I mean, it's picking up a clue. It's kind of like a working a hunch that isn't fast, but it works on the location adjacent to yours if there's an enemy in the right place. Or it's like a thing that moves you somewhere, but it's probably not as good as like Shortcut or the new Join the Caravan or something. Like, I don't know.
Like, if it was in Rogue, I'd be like, oh, this is an adaptable target or something, but it's not, and it costs experience. Because there are a couple of scenarios where you might have to run around the map a lot. Like, I think we're all playing Circle and Done in some fashion. You guys are streaming it. I played it with my friends recently, but for the greater good, you sometimes have to run around the map to like deal with all the cultists that spawn away from you. So this could help you run around and grab some of the clues along the way.
It's just a lot of conditions. Like if there was a card that said like discover a clue at a location adjacent to you and it was like not fast and it cost 1, that would be like maybe playable, but I don't know how excited you'd be to play it. And this is like there has to be an enemy there. You have to pick it along the shortest route. It has to be an empty location. Like you can't even discard a clue if some investigator is there, I'm pretty sure, right? Because it's not empty.
Well, an empty location.
I didn't even notice that there was an empty.
Like the empty thing is just like what?
I think I will. It's very unlikely I'll ever play the level 1 version. Is this somehow good in Joe? Because it's an insight. He can play it fast and for free.
Remember the main thing with Joe is you want cards that you can always play and get a benefit from when they are on top of your deck. Because it's already a random what card is available to you. You don't also want it to be like a situational whether you can even use that card.
Yeah.
I think it's just a miss. It's an interesting card. I like the theme, but it's just, I think it's going to be way too hard to find. The level 1 version is just pretty bad, and I don't think the level 3 version is worth 3 XP when it's like pretty hard to find the right time to use it.
Yeah.
It has a weird number of icons on it.
Yeah,
there's like 4 icons on it to try and make up for we don't know who we would play this in, but here
I feel like Dane will put it in like a really bad dog tribal deck at some point.
No, not even Dan.
I also do we think that is this somebody's art card for like an FFG person because it's a very detailed.
Oh, maybe.
We don't know. We don't know. It could just be an artist that was like painting from a model or something. But I always wonder when there's like a person that looks like they have a very specific face.
I think for the FFG ones, it'd have more focus on their face than the dog's face. If it was a
maybe it's an FFG dog.
That's what I was thinking. Maybe it's an FFG person that has 2 big dogs.
That's true.
I guess you have to play this in Arkham, right?
Isn't one of the cats? Is one of the cats MJ's cat from Dream Eaters or something?
I think
it was.
So.
Like the Zeal Hope, whatever. But I don't know.
Oh, maybe. I think so with this card, it's weird because you're either moving towards an enemy, which is definitely something that half the people that can take this card don't want to be doing, which is like all of the Seekers who are squishy as shit and like don't want to be dealing with enemies. or like you're taking this as a guardian who needs to get a clue at empty locations when they can just play like level 0 scene of the crime, or a lot of other things that have a lot of better symbols on them too. Is there some way that you can use this in Luke, like in a really weird way? Can he like play this at an adjacent location and like get some really weird value off of it?
I think it would be like Shortcut, where you can kind of get an extra movement out of it, sort of, but it's probably...
But Shortcut's fast.
I mean,
yeah.
The action compression on the level 3 one has a lot of high potential. It's just, you have to like set it up. So, right? Because it is 2 moves and 2 clues potentially.
But it's 3 experience.
Yeah.
And I think there's definitely like, there's specific maps where in solo, where like picking up 1 clue off a location is really good. If there's like an enemy that starts really far away from you, and you just play this in solo, and you move, get a clue, move, get a... It's, you know what? It's not worth it. Let's move on.
Yeah,
I'm tired. I'm tired of talking about this. My patience is at an end of the earth. Let's move on to Pocket Telescope, which Dane played a little bit in our Innsmouth run recently.
Like this much, and for cast listeners, I mean, it's like maybe the size of a.
Dane's trying to keep his fingers very close together.
So you're saying you have. You're saying you have a telescope in your pocket, but it's very little. It's a very little telescope. Is that what we're is that what we're describing?
Okay. The time in which I played this card.
Okay, all right. So Pocket Telescope is a Seeker and Rogue asset, level 0, cost 2, with an intellect icon on it. It's an item and a tool, and it says fast trigger, exhaust Pocket Telescope, look at the revealed side of a connecting unrevealed location, and action investigate a revealed connecting location as if you were there. It takes up a hand slot.
So, I'm going to lay it out right here. Every level 0 rogue card is better than every other class's level 0 rogue card because of adaptable. Because adaptables in class, you can always use this on places that might be great for.
I mean,
that's exactly what we used it for.
This is like
pretty cool.
This has like 2 uses, I think. I think it's useful when you do the blind run of any campaign, because it can help. Because sometimes there's scenarios where it's like really bad to move into a location.
Oh yeah.
So like maybe you want to be prepared for it. And then it's also usable in scenarios where there's like a random set of locations and you need to like try to pick the correct one to save yourself time or actions. Dane used it in the horror and high gear, where like there's the forks in the road, and we used it to avoid clue costs to peek at locations.
Which was especially in cases where picking the wrong one is like really bad, like it wastes a lot of time or resources. Yeah. Which is kind of the case in horror and high gear.
Yeah, it kind of breaks the spirit of horror and high gear very specifically.
Well, no, but it's very funny that while you're driving your car, somebody is navigating using a telescope, and they're like, "No, take a left turn! Take a left turn! Oh, look at that bird!"
It is pretty great. Just a quick sort of rules question. If you're taking the action on this, so you're investigating a revealed location as if you were there, and there's an enemy at that location, will that enemy hit you because it's as if you were there? Kind of like Luke rules? Or no, it's as if you were engaged with an enemy. That's what Luke says, right? Every enemy on that location. I'm curious if this is basically like good.
I'm gonna say no, because you spent the action before the effect happens.
Okay.
So I think the AOO opportunity is missed. Unlike Luke, which it specifically says you're engaged with it.
But if the enemy had text on it that said like, if you discover a clue at this location, it AOs you or it hits you, it would probably do it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I can confer with the giant list of questions.
But yeah, I feel like Ben has said before that the words "as if" are like the most complicated rules thing.
Yeah, I mean they made them simpler, but I still have to think about it every time.
But that's a really good point. That's a really good point, Dane, which is that so things like Intel Report are really good because sometimes you have a location that you don't want to go to and you need to clear clues off it, right? But the thing about Intel Report is you're discovering clues from a location where you're not there, which means if there's a place that's haunted or has a locked door, you can still investigate there. Or you can still get clues there without having to deal with like the haunted effect or the really high shroud value or the locked door or some kind of treachery like Wondrous Lands or that stupid new thing in Edge of the Earth that we were just complaining about in Discord. This doesn't get around any of those things. It lets you avoid actually moving to that location. It maybe lets you avoid things that are like when you enter or leave that location. It lets you avoid enemies maybe that are on that location, but it doesn't let you avoid things like a haunted effect or a locked door or a really high shroud value.
Yeah. I looked up the rules for as if in their current state, and it says the game state's considered to be altered for the duration of the indicated ability or action from its initiation, including paying its cost and tax opportunity. So I think in that case, you would be considered to be at the location during its initiation, but I don't think the enemy would actually engage you. God, I hate everything about as if.
This is pretty important to how good the card is. I think.
Exactly, yeah.
I mean, even still, I think it doesn't change a whole lot in the sense that this is like a pretty interesting adaptable target, and it's probably not like a general purpose card that you're just going to put in a secret deck, especially because it takes up a hand slot and you want to play magnifying glass or lockpicks or something. So, but it is. It's pretty interesting as an adaptable target for certain scenarios like horror and high gear.
Yeah, yeah. I'm trying to think if there's any like specific scenarios other than that it would be pretty good in. Like there's in the secret name, there's like the dimensions that you can go into, and some of them do like something to you when you get to them. It's like test 3 will for each point you fail by, take a horror or something like that. So like in those cases, or even like Ben said, like in a blind run, if you're kind of scared of going to new locations first, you just get an action, not even an action. You just fast to look at the checkout, make sure you're going to the right place. There are some places that like require clues to enter in some like places. I know that in Edge of the Earth there are, but in like other scenarios there are that like you might need to figure out which one would be the best place to go among two places that require you to spend a certain number of clues. This could help you with those kinds of situations. Other than that, kind of mediocre.
Yeah. I think if you really want to do remote investigations, either build like the weird deck based around it with like in the know and stuff, or play Luke.
Yeah, or both.
I like it.
Yeah.
My ruling on this is you're not attacked by enemies at the adjacent reveal location, because they don't actually go in your threat zone, so they can't make AOs.
Oh, that's kind of interesting. Somebody in chat said use it with Rex, because Rex will actually get an extra clue there.
But I could be totally wrong. That's how I'm going to play it until someone tells me I'm wrong. So
okay. It's true. Although keep in mind that because this has its own special investigate action, you can't combine it with something like archaic glyphs or fingerprint kit. But that's fine. Or lockpicks, etc., etc.
You can use it with Ursula weirdly, but yeah.
I mean, I like it in. If it does in fact not provoke extra AOs, I like using it in Trish to like evade a hunter that's like chasing you and like pick up a clue or something. Like, that could be a fun way to like deal with enemies that way. So
last comment, it could be we've talked about the potential of haste specifically for decks where like the action that you do to have is like activating something. If you're trying to make like all of your actions be spent like hitting an arrow icon on an asset, then like I don't know, maybe you put this in there. It's I don't know.
Active desperation.
Or if there's some other effect, like Lily has the effect where you have to activate 3 different fight actions if there's an equivalent of investigate or something in the future. That could be cool too. So,
speaking of the future,
or the past,
the next card is Precious Memento, and Precious Memento is an interesting card because it has 2 different forms. In Edge of the Earth, there are 2 cards that say Precious Memento, but each of them has a different subtitle, and they both do different things a little bit. So one of them is Precious Memento from a former life, one of them is from a future life. It is a survivor and rogue card, and it costs 3 to play. It's a level 4 asset, both of them are. Both of them commit for 2 wild icons. They're both, I'm sorry, from a former life is an item, charm, and blessed. From a future life is an item, charm, and cursed. Each of them have the specific requirement that there's a limit, 1 Precious Memento from a former life per deck, and limit 1 Precious Memento from a future life from the deck. So from a former life has 2 reaction abilities on it. The first one is, after you fail a skill test by 2 or more, exhaust Precious Memento to heal 1 damage from it. And then the next reaction ability is, after you succeed at a skill test by 2 or more, exhaust Precious Memento and heal 1 horror from it. It has 3 health and 3 sanity and takes up your accessory slot. And then from a future life has the 2 reaction abilities that are the opposite of those. So that says, After you fail a skill test by 2 or more, exhaust Precious Memento to heal 1 horror from it. And then after you succeed at a skill test by 2 or more, exhaust Precious Memento, heal 1 damage from it. Has 3 health, 3 sanity, and takes up your accessory slot. So this is the first time we've seen like 2 cards that are the same card, but not really, right?
Yeah, it's a weird twist on the cards, I guess. I mean, these cards are combining like the fail more and succeed more themes from Survivor and Rogue in an interesting way, I think. Let's see, the former life one, it lets you heal when you fail and heal damage when you fail and heal horror when you succeed. And the future does the opposite. So
yeah. I guess you should say the former life is also a blessed card, which is important for Mateo. And the other one is a cursed card, which means that Rex can't take it. Not that he can take it anyway. Or no, I'm sorry, that's a fortune. Never mind.
Yeah, no. I don't think cursed has anyone specific right now that interacts with it.
It does not.
But it's only healing it damage off of the memento though, which means it's kind of like a recurring 2 health or 2 sanity soak, depending which one you're trying to go for. And it costs 4 experience. And Survivor has access to Jess and Peter.
And it just conflicts with other. It just conflicts with other similar accessory slot items like Rabbit's Foot and Cigarette Case.
Mateo can't take it. It's too high level for Mateo.
You know.
Yeah, no, Rogue has Cigarette Case, which is incredible.
Right. Like the thing is, if you're failing tests reliably, you should absolutely have Rabbit's Foot. And if you're passing tests by 2 reliably, you should absolutely have Cigarette Case. So this is like a Relic Hunter. This is like your backup accessory slot item, maybe? I don't know.
I think the coolest use case that I've done with this is taking this in Bob, knowing that there's a Parallel Agnes in my group, and shipping it to Parallel Agnes so that she can have this like accessory that will just constantly heal damage for her. And then she can just keep, because she can't natively take this. I think either of them she can't take. So having Bob to give this to her, specifically the Future Life one, I think, after you succeed a skill test by 2 or more, exhaust it to heal a damage from it. That just gives her so much damage healing because she's probably going to be succeeding by 2 or more. Does
Parallel Agnes not have to put the damage on herself to trigger the ability? It's just take a damage?
She can put it on. Yeah, she can put it on Jess. She can put it on leather coats and recur them with scavengings. So this is an option if you're playing Bob and you kind of want to do that. But yeah, there's a lot of other options for that.
It's definitely pretty niche, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Good, well prepared icons. I don't know if there's anybody that can take this and well prepared, but there it is.
I mean, anyone that has like subclass Guardian, I guess. Or
Courage.
I thought well prepared
was level 3.
That is 2.
It's either 2 or 3.
Yeah.
I solved it.
Anyway, why don't we move on to the next card or cards?
Yeah.
All right. Next we got Professor William Webb. He's got a level 0 and a level 2 version, and he's a finder of hidden connections. The level 0 version costs 3. Is an asset with an intellect icon, ally and Mystotonic traits, uses 3 secrets. Reaction: when you successfully investigate, exhaust Professor William Webb and spend 1 secret. Instead of discovering a clue at your location, either choose an item card in your discard pile and add it to your hand, or discover a clue at a connecting location. He's got 1 health and 2 sanity, takes up an ally slot. Oh, and he is a secret and survivor card. And then the level 2 version, differences are he gains a willpower icon, and his effect is when you discover reaction when you successfully investigate, exhaust him and spend 1 secret. Choose an item card in your discard pile and add it to your hand. Instead of discovering a clue at your location, you may discover a clue at a connecting location. He has an extra sanity. So I guess his effect makes it so you can do both of the things, right, instead of the or.
Yeah.
I feel like I should have put this in my Bob deck for Edge of the Earth, just to try him out. If I was going to try him out at something.
It's kind of an interesting card because it's like a scavenging with a body, kind of.
Yeah, I mean, when you successfully investigate, you can scavenge, and you can also grab a clue off a connecting location. I don't know if that part is.
I mean, this is
useful,
sort of.
but...
Keep in mind, like what we were saying with the pocket telescope was because you investigate as if you were at another location, you don't get to skip things like bad haunted abilities,
right.
or locked doors. In this case, you do, because it's like a sixth sense or whatever, where you investigate here, but you get a clue from there. That is kind of cool.
I guess Trish can use him, right? She could use that to discover a clue off an extra, discover 2 clues off a connected location, or evade and discover a clue or something.
Yeah, well, I mean, I guess you could. Well, you would successfully investigate. Like Trish triggers off of getting a clue, right? Not investigating. So you would investigate here, but if there was like a clue and an enemy at an adjacent location, or 2 clues. Yeah, I guess it's just the thing is, like, so he's got 3 secrets on him, so you only have limited uses unless you're putting secrets back on him, which you can do with seekers can generally do that with like Twine, but off-class seekers like Trish can't really do it as well. As for the scavenging thing, isn't a big part of what makes scavenging good that you get to actually play the item directly? Like you don't just get it back to your hand. Well, right, but I mean, like people don't get excited about scavenging level 0, right? Like scavenging level 2 is like the thing.
I think you underestimate people, Dan. But yeah, that's kind of like the level 2 version is that you immediately get to put it back into play. I think specifically what this is kind of going for, if you're not a survivor, is Ice Pick. Ice Pick is like level 3 is the only thing that I can think of that would generate like kind of like enough value every time you crack it. You can pull it back from your bin and get like it, investigate, and it's fast, so you can immediately play it again, get 2 clues with it, etc. So like that's kind of a neat engine.
So suppose you have this guy on your board and you have an ice pick in hand. You can play the ice pick, investigate, use it. Does the timing work out that you can immediately get that same ice pick back when you succeed on investigating?
So the level 3 ice pick is the one you discard, right?
Yeah.
So it's during a skill test you can exhaust it. And then if you succeed, you can discard it. This one's when you successfully investigate. I guess win triggers before if, and those are both in the same step of the test. So I think no, because I think he would trigger William first and then trigger Ice Pick.
Gotcha. Okay.
That's too bad. But the fact that you would still have to like. You would still have to also have a way to put secrets back on him. It's a little bit like Rube Goldberg-y kind of.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah. Bad Boy is asking an interesting question in chat. Can this find a clue from 2 locations away with the pocket telescope? So you investigate from the next location with pocket telescope, and then you use Professor William to discover a clue.
I'm going to say yes.
I think that works.
I'm going to say yes to that.
Oh, hell yeah.
Because it's just like Luke, where you can like use shortcut to go 2 spaces, right? Type of thing. So
now, what if you used Luke to play? What if you played that event that gives you? I don't know, but I think you could chain this even further. Right? Like if you're playing Luke, and you could,
if is a horrible rabbit hole to go down. That usually doesn't even break the game. It's just very complex.
Speaking of rabbit holes, you could use rabbit hole to upgrade this guy. So
I guess. No,
but I think
there's some wisdom.
I like this guy's art. He seems like a chill, weird dude. I like a lot of the other new allies we've seen cost a lot of XP and money. This guy, I mean, obviously he doesn't give you static boost to any of your stats, so he's just kind of worse. But level 2 XP isn't that much. 3 is like pretty affordable. He's at least not too expensive. I don't think he's amazing, but he's kind of interesting. Last thing I would say though, any ally with like 1 health, there are encounter cards in multiple campaigns that will kind of like snipe an ally that only has 1 health or horror.
Yeah.
Without spoiling anything, there might be a card kind of like that in Edge of the Earth. So
maybe that's reason not to take him on my Bob. I was thinking about it because it's kind of like you have him and lets you like commit the item first if you want, and then pull it back or something. Because the Bob deck has a lot of items, he can't play them all. So it'd be good to be able to quit him and stuff. I don't know, but yeah, I don't know. I think I'll try him. I might try him on Bob. You might be seeing him whenever we could meet to continue our Edge of the Earth campaign, Dan. And that and Ice Pick.
Yep. Let's talk about the next card. So next up, we have a Seeker and Mystic event that is level 2, cost 1, and it has an intellect icon and an agility icon. It's a ritual. It's called Protecting the Anirnik, or something along those lines. And it says, fast, play after an ally asset at your location is discarded by a card effect or is defeated. Either return that asset to its owner's hand, or its owner draws 3 cards. So that's kind of interesting. It kind of reminds me of Sacrifice a little bit, the Mystic card. 3 cards for a fast event that costs 1 is pretty nice. That's like, it's not quite as good as Cryptic Research, but it's level 2 instead of level 4.
I mean, there's certain allies that you like use them up and then you try to murder them so you can play them again. Like Mr. Rook or Jeremy or even Webb that we just looked at could maybe fall into that.
I definitely have had the experience multiple times of having a Jeremy on the board and also having another Jeremy in my hand and wanting the Jeremy on the board to die very, very badly. But the thing that's frustrating is this card doesn't really help you do that, right?
That's right.
This card doesn't help you kill an ally that you want to replace. It just lets you benefit more from when they go away on their own, kind of.
It's interesting because like most of the cards that trigger off of like the death of somebody, like for example, Decorated Skull, which I'm going to talk about in a minute. But those things only care about if it's being defeated, but this actually cares about if it's discarded by an effect too. That would be like your Crypt Chill, right? Or like something that just unceremoniously just takes it off the board for whatever reason, your Vice and Villainy, etc. So like this can also be used in that circumstance.
I mean, it's nice for saving an important ally that you don't want, like you only have one copy of, or you don't have a copy ready to go. So,
but it doesn't work with Calling in Favors, because with Calling in Favors, you're not discarding the ally, you're returning it to hand already.
That's right.
Yeah.
So I need to put out a retraction immediately because I forgot how Bob works. He can't take Webb or Ice Pick because he doesn't have access to high level survivor cards.
That's what
I guess he could take level 0 Webb, but that's not as fun. So
womp, womp.
With this card though, I'm playing 2 different decks in 2 different campaigns. So I'm playing through Carcosa right now with somebody for the first time, and I'm playing Norman with a whole bunch of expendable allies with Tony, who has upgraded Decorated Skull. Upgraded Decorated Skull is absolutely bonkers, especially if you could trigger the extra draw from Norman. And this card, if you're playing like medical students and you're playing art students or like laboratory assistants or whatever, is really, really cool because once your lab assistant or whoever dies, you can, as Norman, draw 4 cards. And then with Daisy, we're doing kind of the same thing. So Harrison's playing Larry Anderson with Sled Dogs, which is amazing, and Guard Dogs as well. It's a dog deck. And Daisy is doing a whole bunch of students go to the South Pole and get murdered. So this is definitely going in my deck immediately because I'm playing a whole bunch of medical students to tamper the damage on our allies and stuff like that. So it's going to be really good just to draw 3 cards fast when something that I know is going to happen. I'm pretty excited about it.
The main use that I can think of for this is specifically so for Agnes, who is probably going to play Arcane Initiate and or maybe, I mean, Agnes is mainly going to play Peter, and this isn't great for that, but suppose someone else in your group is playing Peter, or you don't want to play Peter for some reason. Maybe you just play Arcane Initiate and like David Renfield, and you can just put damage and horror on them, and then you just play this to either bounce them back to your hand or draw a bunch of cards. Like if you have a way, because Agnes is going to play like Forbidden Knowledge and stuff, she's going to have ways to kind of take horror on command to make her stuff. So if she has an ally that's not being useful anymore, she can probably like kill it, play this, and get some cards out of it, and that's kind of right. And she doesn't have that many ways to draw cards either, so the card draw is pretty strong. Last thing I would say is. Maybe also if you're playing a Roland or Joe deck and you're playing Beat Cop and you don't have healing, you don't have ways to like heal Beat Cop, so you're like, okay, I'm going to just let the beat cop die from using its ability, but then I will bounce it back to hand and play it again. That's expensive, but it's something you could think about.
Yeah, you brought up Arcane Initiate and Mr. David Renfield. I feel like Marie would like this too, because she can freely kill us off and then replay them to get Save Doom out again. So.
Oh, and with this when Baron Samedi goes away, you could play this. I think, right? You wouldn't want to return the hand.
You didn't do it yet. That'd be great.
You could draw 3 cards.
Man,
so a couple things.
Oh no, he's not an ally. He's an avatar.
It would also. That's too bad. It would also be very funny to play this in Ursula when you play her extremely useless ally Mitch. You could play Mitch and then immediately let him die. Or sorry, Jake. I got confused. You could play Jake, immediately let him die, and then draw 3 cards. All right, Jake, get the hell out of here. I'm drawing cards. You know.
So like, there's a couple things with this card. I'm surprised you didn't bring up Dexter, because isn't Dexter's ability a card effect? So couldn't you if you transform David Renfield into like a Liquid Courage or something, can't you just return David Renfield to your hand and then like play him again next turn or something?
Yeah, because that'd be a card effect.
That's
That
true.
boy in chat mentioned like Hope and Zeal and like Mysterious Raven.
Oh yeah.
Beat Cop, even the effect on Beat Cop itself, like level 0 Beat Cop, is a card effect of this card's itself, right? So all those things you could trigger it off of.
I mean, level 0 Beat Cop is so bad we usually don't even bother. But yeah, I mean, you definitely have to put in some work to think of what decks this works in, but it's not. It definitely has some potential.
Does this work with like Tetsuo and Brother Xavier? Like when they die and get defeated, can you trigger their effect and then pull them back to your hand?
Probably.
Yeah, so this is the Tetsuo is win, so that would be before protecting could be fired, because protecting's after.
Ben's just not even gonna try that 3rd word.
No, I'm not. That would be insulting to an entire people, I'm sure. So I don't want to.
That's fair.
I can't try to do that. So, but yeah, no, I think anything. The timing is after, so anything that you could trigger before on a card, you could trigger off and get extra work out of them. So
nice.
It's probably some fun combos you can do with this. And like as Dan said, it's not quite as good as Cryptic Research, because it has a requirement for when you play it, and it costs 1, but it's less experience. More people have access to it.
Oh, it sucks that Tommy can't play this card. This would be the cure for his weakness. That's so terrible.
Well,
there's definitely a lot of design space for cards that are like Cryptic Research, but not as good to still be excellent. So,
it is half of a Seeker card. I mean, you can play this on other people, right? So, like, if you're playing with Tommy, you could throw this in your deck to help them out. Like, if you're playing a Seeker, you already have a million card draw. You could put a card in your deck that helps your allies occasionally draw a bunch of cards.
Yeah,
and like Cryptic Research.
All right. Well, let's move on to the next card.
The next card is Protective Gear. So this is a Survivor and a Guardian card. It's a level 2 asset that costs 4 to play. Has a will icon and an agility icon on it. It is an item and an armor. As a reaction, when you draw a Hazard Treachery, deal 1 damage and 1 horror to Protective Gear. Cancel that card's revelation effect. And then it has 3 health and 3 sanity and takes up your body slot. After what you've seen, you intend to sleep in it. It's a weird image. But anyway, this card is like weirdly good in specific scenarios. Namely for interesting one-shot standalone scenarios, like the Blob. There are some hazards that are just really annoying to deal with that this actually just like kind of can get out of there pretty quickly. If you've got a way to heal assets, like through Solemn Vows, if somebody had put through a Solemn Vow on you, you can pull things off of it.
It's tricky
Yorick,
because
go back.
It's tricky because you have to heal both horror and damage off of it, which I feel like is kind of a tall order. But yeah, if you can do it,
I mean,
that's good.
If there's a campaign that has a lot of hazards that are like, I want to ward this 3 times, like not even worry about healing it.
Dane, you were saying Innsmouth has a lot of hazards, is that right?
Yes, that is one of the things that has like a strange number of hazards, especially in like horror and high gear and stuff like that.
Yeah, horror and gear is a lot of hazards.
Are hazards generally kind of like things in your like in physical space that are like dangerous, like you know the pit card that's like a hole in Pallid Mask, is that like a hazard, for instance?
That oh yeah,
yes. Yep, that's a hazard.
I think that would be. Yeah.
I'm just trying to like kind of get a mental model of like how often, how many encounter cards are hazards, kind of.
There's a weird amount of them.
Or like Rotting Remains, is that a hazard? Probably not.
No, but Crypt Chill is. Grasping Hands, okay. Obscuring Fog.
Yeah, I imagine it's things that are kind of like weather or natural disasters or like obstacles, like physical, those sorts of things. So yeah, there's a fair amount of those.
Yeah.
This is, I don't know, it is kind of expensive, right? It is $4.
That's the thing. Yeah, like you're playing allies like in these classes anyways that are kind of expensive, like B Cops, and well that's kind of it. But like for this, it's 4 to play on top of that. So unless you have a way to like, maybe you can what's the card that we were just talking about that plays it for 1 at the beginning of your turn or whatever? I don't remember. But
Ever Vigilant?
Yeah, Ever Vigilant, or you can geared up this, and it's kind of a little better.
Well, and early in the game, people don't really play these anymore, but early in the game, you would sometimes put in a Bulletproof Vest or Elder Sign Amulet into your deck.
True.
If you were just worried about taking horror and damage, and those are also expensive. Like this is, it soaks both damage and horror. It's a lot of money, but like, it's not totally crazy to think that you might play this.
I mean, for Tommy, he could probably get his money back for it.
Oh yeah, it is a pretty cool Tommy card actually.
Yeah, even if he just uses it for the soak, yeah, it could be pretty nice for him. And
I guess Bob can help pay for it.
Yeah, Bob can pay for it. I don't know. Yeah, I think you have to like. I don't think this is a card you just like put in your deck for a blind run. It might be one you strategically pick for like a standalone or certain campaigns where you're really worried about some of the hazards. So
yeah,
but I think it's definitely playable in that fashion, and I think Tommy might just play it as a soak card. You could definitely consider it. So can Bob buy this card? No.
I like the idea of like we joke sometimes about like it's like in D&D where players eventually learn to like listen before every door before they open it, like never go around, like players become like extremely cautious and paranoid. Yeah. This feels to me like if you've dealt with the mythos enough as an investigator, you would eventually learn to like go everywhere wearing like a full suit of armor, carrying a flamethrower, never looking at any type of book or with text, like never talking to anyone who seems weird. Like you would just become like a weirdo.
Yeah, I mean
like,
that is the gist of this card. Idea. So
yeah.
Definitely
cool.
like that.
You intend to sleep in it. It says it on the card.
Yeah,
which I mean, D&D usually means you get a penalty of some kind. It's not comfortable to sleep in, but they might take that out of 5th edition actually. So I think you can sleep in heavy armor and no one cares. So, all right, why don't we move on to the next card, which is mine to read. All right, so yeah, Quick Draw Holster. This is a Guardian and Rogue card. Cost 4, level 4 asset, has 1 combat and 2 agility icons. It's an item, tool, and illicit, which means Preston can't take it. But Finn can because it's illicit.
Finn can.
Yeah. So choose a firearm asset taking up only 1 hand slot in your play area. Attach it to Quick Draw Holster, or switch it with the attached asset. The attached asset takes up no hand slots. Limit 1 attached asset. Free trigger, exhaust, Quick Draw Holster, perform a fight action on the attached asset without paying its action cost. Takes up a body slot.
This is the coolest card that I will probably never play.
I have a question for Rules Master Ben.
Oh,
no. I think this is an easy one. Perform a fight action on the attached asset without paying its action cost. That means you still pay the ammo if it costs ammo. You still basically pay every part of the cost except for literally spending an action, right?
Right.
Yes.
I think so.
Now, in theory, if it said like as an additional cost you must take a horror or something like that would also still apply. Here's a question. I don't think this currently exists. Suppose they make a one-handed firearm asset that has a activated ability that costs 2 actions or 3 actions. Would you be able to use this on it, or would it just save you would it just reduce the number of actions by 1, kind of?
Like Sledgehammer, but if it were like one-handed.
Yeah, imagine if Sledgehammer was a firearm.
I think it just dodges the action cost overall, but I could be wrong.
Like My guess is they'll never do that. But...
An actual example is like if you have whatever card that makes you cost extra action. Yeah, Frozen in Fear, because that means your first action costs 2 actions. This is let you dodge that because you're not paying the action cost. It still says you're performing a fight action though, so maybe it does cost an extra action, but you don't have to pay it. Not sure.
Like maybe it costs 1 instead of 2. It's very confusing.
Yeah.
So Dane, you definitely wouldn't play this. I mean, I feel like I'm kind of skeptical of it, but like I'm always kind of a jerk. Like you wouldn't put this in like a Tony deck or like a Guardian deck, like just to kind of be able to shoot more in a turn.
So that's the thing. Like I'm actually playing the Norman and Tony playthrough. My friend was like, "Quick Draw Holster, this is so cool," and it is a cool card. It's got Delilah on it. It's obviously cool, but he has Lonnie and he wants to just like infinitely heal with Lonnie and like heavy furs or whatever, and you're sacrificing your body slot to this just to do that. That said, I don't think it's a bad card. I think it's really cool, and I might play it at some point just because it has a really weird interaction with Galvanize, because Galvanize is a card that like nobody's ever heard of, but Galvanize says to ready a Guardian asset you control at your location, and then you have an additional action during your turn, which could be a fight action. So you could potentially like ready this, and if you're playing like Mark or somebody with like a 32 or something like that, you could take 2 additional fight actions that turn, so you get 5 fight actions because Galvanize would ready this, right? And then you could take an additional fight action, which this doesn't need to use, so you can use that fight action and then use the quick draw holster or whatever. And that's kind of
is pretty cool
thing that you can do with it. So like there's a build I'm sure that you can do that with.
My thoughts on this was, I mean, we talk about like how action compression is really good for Guardians because you have one big turn where there's like 3 enemies on the field and you want to be able to do a lot of fighting. So in that sense, this could be pretty strong. The downside is like you don't generally, if you're going to be able to do more things on your turn, you would rather like make each individual fight more powerful or have ways to ping things like beat cop rather than just like doing extra fights, because this way it costs more ammo, you have to do more tests, you have to commit more cards if the difficulty is difficult. So it's not like exactly what you want, but I kind of like it. I guess another issue is I feel like firearms are a little bit out of style right now almost. Like it seems like a lot of decks are using like the big hammer weapons that have just come out. We've seen a lot of good like 2-handed melee weapons lately, so maybe guns are not as popular as they once were, but I mean, I could kind of see playing this in Mark because Mark's favorite weapon is the 32, or at least the way that I tend to play him, right?
And the 45,
like,
yeah.
The 32 comes with a lot of bullets, and if you get the upgraded one, you can even just return it to hand and play it again when you run out. And like Mark, unlike what Dane was talking about, Mark is probably not going to use his body slot generally, so it's worth thinking about. I wish it didn't cost 4, but it is what it is.
Yeah, it costs a lot, and it's a lot of experience, but I was like trying to compare it against like Abigail, who kind of does the same thing but with tomes, and also better.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, she takes one ally slot. She costs less, which is a more valuable slot, and she obviously can get. But she also has soak, and it lets you basically free trigger a tome again after you do the action. So I was trying to think like if this is better or worse than that. I feel like it's worse because it's a multi-class card and not a secret card, but. Yeah, I like Dan's Mark deck idea. I think, again, now I'm trying to figure out how all these cards can possibly work in Bob, because it's like, oh yeah, he has access to green. to green. Lily, of course, can't use this because she can't use freaking firearms. So she can't use it even though it's half Guardian. But I don't know. Bob could maybe buy some. There's like some rogue one-handed weapons. Like what's the one that came in Winterfed it's like pretty okay. The Mauser.
Yeah, the Mauser. The Mauser, that's the thing, because like you're either looking. I mean, fight actions are never bad, right? Like what Dan was saying, like with the 32, Mark has enough combat obviously that he can just shoot a 32 and pretty reliably hit. Tony is another one who can kind of do that, but like the succeed by thing, generally he can do that as well. And the succeed by thing is like Mark can just consistently pump out damage and more damage with this with smaller firearms. Whereas Tony can use like guns that do more, like the Mauser, for example, that will give him money back. Hopefully he succeeds or else it exhausts. But like for something like the 30, what's the Derringer? The upgraded Derringer for me is probably the most interesting thing with this, because if you succeed by 3, you get an additional action. So you can like do some really funny stuff with like getting an extra action with this and shooting like 4 times and get it. No, I guess it exhausts itself. Never mind. But you can do that and get another action off of it, and then shoot it again or whatever. But
there are a few other cards we haven't mentioned that combo well with like doing extra fight actions. There's Payday, which we don't typically think is a great card, but if you were trying to build a deck around it, this would sort of help you with that. There's also Kenai, right? Because Kenai gives you a bonus that lasts the entire turn.
Oh, that's
so
right.
if you're the kind of cost of having to do a bunch of fight tests isn't so bad if your way of boosting them is a thing that lasts for your entire turn, right?
Yeah. I guess would this trigger haste too? Do fast effects that are like that ability? Because it says take that action without paying its action cost. So
I think I don't know. I'll let Ben answer that.
This one, it's a free trigger. This one is a little weird because it's giving you an extra action, I think, that you are actually taking the action, as opposed to like sometimes you like do a fast trigger to like investigate, but it's not actually an action in that instance. This one's weird. So it's performing a fight action. So I think you could trigger haste with it.
That's kind of what I was thinking too.
Not 100% sure. This card has no rules questions
kind of strangely
on the giant rules questions for MJ sheet, so the rules nerds must have figured it out conclusively. So I don't know. I'm gonna say for now it does work with haste. If I'm wrong, someone please comment. Let me know. I hate not knowing what a rule is, so it keeps me up at night for hours. But yeah, I don't know. This seems neat. I think if you're doing one-handed weapons, I think you should, and you're doing Rogue Guardian, I think you could work this in, and it could give you some good action progression, especially if you're like trying to fight like a big boss. Like it's like high experience cards, so you probably don't see it till like later in the campaign. So it'll be good for like blowing up a boss or whatever. So why don't we move on to the next card?
Yeah, but I just want to say, is this the hottest Arkham card art since like Watchful Piece or something? Like I don't know. There's
because it's Delilah.
Because the holster is red and red's the best color.
I don't know. I mean, she's. I don't know. I think it's. I don't know.
I think Dan just has a thing for redheads. Also, probably MJ and everyone in the Arkham art department, because there's a lot of redheads in this game.
Honestly, like I'm gonna be honest, the carrying the gun thing really works for me. Like that's really something. This is Delilah, right? That's right?
Yeah, it's definitely Delilah.
Yeah.
I'm surprised she has. Yeah, there's art. Is she like a character in one of the other games? Like having two pieces of art with the same ally, like same side character, seems a little weird, right?
I think it's honestly like the gun and the hat. Like if you could date a hot lady Indiana Jones, like that's the whole thing, right? Like that's obviously tier 1 or whatever. So
I guess this was the same artist actually.
Yeah,
Kimple. Yeah, with that's the first name. So
yeah, no, it's great art.
I mean, it's possible they ordered the art and they just made two arts of the same character. And
I guess if we're talking the hottest art in the set, this like protective gear is also pretty hot technically, right? Like this competes pretty highly with that. So
that is true. Protective gear.
Can we move to the next card so that nobody has the time to absorb that miserable joke, please?
Yeah. Let's do it. Okay, so this is a fun one, right? We have one of the aforementioned big two-handed melee weapons. It's Sledgehammer, and there's 2 versions of it. There's a level 0 version and a level 4 version. It is a Guardian and Survivor asset. So the level 0 version has a combat icon. It's both versions are item, tool, weapon, melee. Both versions take up 2 hand slots. The level 0 version has action fight. You get -1 combat and deal +1 damage for this attack. And it has double action fight. You get +2 combat and deal +2 damage for this attack. The level 4 version has 3 combat icons instead of 1. And the abilities that it has are the single action fight. Instead of -1 combat, you get +1 combat and you still get +1 damage. And then instead of a double action fight, it has a triple action fight. You get +5 combat and deal +5 damage for this attack. So it's kind of interesting, right? Go ahead.
I think the other important part that you're missing is that Sledgehammer level 0 is 20 pounds of Steel Vengeance, and Sledgehammer level 4 is 25 pounds of Steel Vengeance.
Right, so
5 pounds makes a big difference.
Yeah, it's funny that just adding 5 pounds makes it. Yeah.
I mean, you're not a physicist, Dan, but I think 5 pounds makes all the difference when you're swinging a big hammer at a monster's head. You know.
I mean, it definitely. I would say it increases the kinetic energy by 25%, give or take. So,
I mean, the Sledgehammer level 4 is the legendary item that Ben smashed a Cthulhu so hard its child died.
Oh yeah,
that is.
We can never forget this.
That was a moment.
I like Sledgehammer 4 because it's good and hard and expert because like you want to do minimal tests in those, and this gives you also a big bonus to help counteract the big negatives. And I ran it in Daniela in an Innsmouth run during Arkham Nights, so it was great swing. It tricked me into putting 1 live and learn in my deck, right? So that if I missed with an auto fail, I could retry the attack. I don't think I ever used it. No, actually, I think I used it once, so it worked out.
Worth it.
Hey, it saved a whole turn. But I like it because the action question is really nice. It helps balance out against Dan when he's playing like Mandy and his turn takes 100 years because he has to shuffle his deck 30 times. And it's like, all right, my turn, I do one thing and I kill the monster. Great, let's move on. I think the big weakness...
It's not that weird because as a seeker, you have 1 button Archaic Glyphs, which is like, action discover. You get plus 1 million and discover 1 million clues.
Yeah.
And this is like that for fighting, only it takes your whole turn. That kind of sucks. I mean, but it is. I mean, I think what we were getting at is it is funny that adding 5 additional pounds of Steel Vengeance makes a big difference. In the level 0 one, the level 0 one seems pretty bad, and the level 4 one is like at least sort of good, right?
Yeah, the level 0 one, like the basic fight action, which is -1 fight for 1 extra damage.
Yeah,
I mean, it is like a sort of a costless +1 damage, right? Like or conditionless. Like a lot of the level 0 weapons have some other condition on them to get the +1 damage.
Yeah, and like I'm a big proponent of the 32 in like Mark decks, which doesn't give you a combat bonus. So you could say like, okay, well for Mark you don't need the combat bonus as much. I don't really want like a -1. Like I mean, I might not need a combat boost that much, but I definitely don't want a -1.
Yeah.
Before considering the level 0 version of this, let me ask you a question. Do you want a card that is worse than Kukri in your deck?
No, Dane, I don't.
Then don't play this card.
Do you want a card that's worse than Kukri in your deck?
I mean, is this worse than Kukri?
Like sometimes you do.
I mean, because like it's two actions to deal 3 damage, right? Is that what you're thinking?
Yeah,
Kukri is 1 action there's 2 actions to deal 2 damage. So that's
like
still
this is
good.
This is not worse than Kukri. I mean, Kukri's very, very bad.
well, this takes up both hand slots.
Yeah.
I guess the only single action fight action that I can think of that's worse than this one is the one on Knuckle Dusters.
You are forgetting a lot of very bad weapons that exist in this game.
Well, I guess that does an extra damage.
Oh, okay.
Single action fight action that does an extra damage.
Sure.
The only one that I can think of off the top of my head, and correct me if I'm wrong, is letting the enemy get retaliated.
I mean, Knuckle Dusters isn't bad if you have a 5 combat,
Sure.
Or does Tony have 5 combat? Yeah,
he does.
I don't know.
So let's break this down. Let's look at just the level 4 version, and let's break this down as like pros and cons. Pro, extremely cool, very fun. Will feel really awesome when you hit something with it.
Great.
The fact that it never runs out of ammo is nice. The fact that it gives you the flexibility. It's not like Flamethrower where it's either like, do the full on Flamethrower and like use up a charge and potentially waste a lot of stuff just to deal a weak enemy. It kind of has this built-in like little attack that you can use for little enemies and then a big attack that you use for big enemies. All of that is really cool. It's not too expensive. It's only 3. We've seen a lot of weapons that are more expensive. All that is nice. The con, I think Ben said it was very hard to actually be able to do the triple action unless you either have extra actions or you have like infinite Goddess Mandy teleporting around and shortcutting you. Right?
Yeah, that is the penalty. Like you need a way to be able to move around actionlessly to like be able to efficiently use this. Unless because the enemies don't always necessarily spawn on you. Sometimes they spawn your teammates or they're spawn an empty location, or they're a boss that spawns at X location or whatever. So having like something that can shortcut you, or safeguard or something like that to help you move around actionlessly, so you can spend those 3 actions is pretty key.
Or even some like I'll handle this one, or like those types of cards.
Yeah,
I will mention one thing that's extremely funny about this, possibly even funnier than hitting Dagon so hard that you killed his spawn. You do the triple action. You're putting all your eggs in one basket. If you're attacking something that is in someone else's threat area and you draw the auto fail, you will probably kill that person, right? Well, and think of how funny that would be.
That would be pretty funny.
And just think about it. You can kill them and then play live and learn, and then swing again at the enemy and maybe also kill the enemy. It's like, well, your sacrifice wasn't in vain, you know. I mean, you could run I guess you could run Riot Whistle to like pull the enemy off of someone, so you have a chance of killing them.
Yeah,
but that kills all the tension, really.
Well, and that's like the flip side of what Ben was saying, which is that if you're in expert mode, only having to do one test to do a ton of damage is really, really good, right? And a test where you get +5, like, okay, you get +5, you commit like an overpower or something, or like a courage, you're at like +7, like even the -8, you probably pass in a lot of cases. Like, I mean, that is pretty good. Like in some cases, this is neat. It's just too bad that I feel like the real bummer isn't Cyclopean Hammer like kind of better than this most of the time?
That's the thing.
Assuming you're not like a survivor. Like if you're a survivor, you can take this, but you can't take Cyclopean Hammer.
I mean, Cyclopean Hammer seems very good. I haven't actually seen it in. Oh no, Kim was playing it on Lily, right? And it was hitting everything across the board. It's great.
It is more expensive, and it's not very good for people that have really low will. But
yeah, it's 5 experience and 5 to play. 1 action to deal 2 to 3 damage, depending if you succeed by enough, right?
Yeah, right. And the thing about that is that like Time Worn Brand gives you +2 combat and +1 damage, right? Anybody with at least 2 will, it's a Time Worn Brand that can potentially do 3 damage. It's just better than Time Worn Brand. And like with Sledgehammer, I think I think it's just like really, it's just a solid card. I think it's just like a good, like, bash them over the head, flavorfully, just a pretty solid card. Like the fact that you can take this in Wendy is fantastic. I'm very, very excited to use this in Wendy.
Well, and unlike the Cyclopean Hammer and a lot of these other things, Daniela can take it, right? Like that's half the reason Ben was playing it, is because you just don't have too many options as Daniela. And even if you do mostly want to play the Cyclopean Hammer, you can only play 2 copies of that. So this is like your backup, right? You play like 1 or 2 copies of this, and it's like if you don't have a Cyclopean Hammer in your opening hand, maybe you have one of this instead, and you can still wreck face, right?
Yeah. My point, Chad, is bringing up the fire extinguisher, the new fire extinguisher, level 3 fire extinguisher. We actually think that's pretty good now. But this is just more of the beefy, like compared to chainsaw kind of a thing, right? Like both flavorfully, like chainsaw and sledgehammers go hand in hand, right? Like the weird fact that like these are both survivor cards, and that this can also be a guardian card is really cool.
Yeah,
like I want this in both classes.
Yeah, new fire extinguisher is just +1/+1 damage for an action. So maybe in like in standard, fire extinguisher is probably a little bit better than Sledgehammer, because it's probably easy enough for you to pass a couple tests. I still stand by that in hard or expert, having that +5 fight in 1 action is very strong.
Really solid, yeah.
So
if you can actually manage to be in a position to use your entire turn to just attack once.
Yeah, you've got safeguards. Mark and Roland have shortcuts.
It doesn't happen every scenario, but there's definitely scenarios where there's a big boss that you need to whack a couple times.
Also, if there's ever a deck to play, what's it called? Relentless, like the punching bag, where if there's ever a weapon to use with that, I think it's this. So
if you like squish a 1 health cultist, do you get 5 resources? I forget how that card works. But
you deal access damage to your enemy. You put that damage on Relentless, and then you can convert it to Buddy. Oh man,
it's still pretty bad, but
that is a very funny way to get a lot of money. Like you use the triple action to kill a rat or something.
A rat.
You get 5 money.
Let's move on though to the next card.
Yeah, so the next card is Snipe. This is a level 1 zero cost event. It is for Guardians and Rogues. It is a tactic. And then it says, during the next fight action you perform this turn, using a ranged or firearm asset, treat each skull, cultist, tablet, elder thing, or autofail token you reveal as a 0 token. This attack does not provoke attacks of opportunity. One thing that is here that is not in most cards that have ever been printed in this game.
It has combat and agility icons.
Yes, and it does have combat agility icons. Is that this treats the autofail as something that's not the autofail.
It is still very bad.
I think it's not great, and I think it's because it takes an action. You kind of have to like set up first, and then you do that. But it's bad for Guardians, I would say. For Rogues who have access to like sawed-off shotgun and things they really want to make sure hit like pack a punch, they're going to throw like, you know, Winnie's going to throw 6 skill cards at something. This ensures that you're going to deal 6 damage almost every time, right?
Yeah, rogues are rolling in extra actions, so that they usually that can sometimes be hard to make use of because all their stuff exhausts. But so this might be good for rogues. Yeah, Guardian, I don't know who would want to use it on. It's not an insight, so it's not like Joe could use it to like play for free or something.
I really don't want to spend a card and an action just to make the autofail not do anything. You know, I mean, that's obviously we're scared of the autofail, but like if you're spending a card and an action just to do that, like because this isn't helping you pass on a -5 or like a -6 or a skull.
I think this is more of a rogue card.
Pass on a skull, but...
It is. This is way more a rogue card than it is a Guardian card, I think, because there have been so many times that I've really wanted to make sure one attack hits, which is usually with a sawed-off shotgun or something that will deal 1,000,000 damage if it hits, as long as you don't pull that one symbol, and this is the way to prevent that. Notably, Parallel Roland can take this and make it fast, so he's like the only investigator in the game I think that can do that.
Yeah, I don't have much else to say on this one. I think if you have a lot of rolling actions and you're shooting stuff or you're using the bow and you're like in hard mode or expert, maybe this helps you out.
Dane, are you gonna put this in like a Tony deck, or are you going to like think about it and then decide you don't have a slot for it?
I think I'm going to put this in a Winnie deck over any other deck, because Winnie can use this for its sight guns if she needs to. She'll find it eventually again, and if you take like a shotgun or whatever, then like this is the card that you want to play with that. You want to succeed by 1,000,000,000, and you want to make sure it hits, and this is 100% certain that attack will hit, which feels great, honestly.
As long as you can also pass on whatever the lowest negative number is, like as long as you can also pass on a -5 or something.
That's why
once Winnie's up and running, she commits like 2 cards at every test.
That's why Winnie. So yeah.
All right, why don't we move on? So up next we have Talisman of Protection. This is a Mystic Survivor card, level 0. It's cost 2, it's an asset, has 1 willpower icon on it, it's an item and a charm. Fast, play only during your turn. Play Talisman of Protection under the control of any investigator at your location. Reaction, when you are assigned damage and or horror that would defeat you, discard Talisman of Protection, cancel up to 2 of that damage and or horror, and it takes up an arcane slot.
There's an event that does this, right, in Survivor?
Yeah.
It's like mini one of those, but you play proactive.
It's like a double will icon card that we used to play sometimes.
Yeah, in like Calvin and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean it's an interesting card. Like the only damage, Perseverance is the event.
Yeah.
The only damage and horror that really matters is the one that will defeat you, right? So, like this could protect you against that, I guess. I was trying to figure out how to put this into like a Lily deck to use with like Dragon Pull, but I gave up on Dragon Pull.
It's definitely, it's really funny to me that this is called Talisman, the art clearly shows it's a thing that somebody wears around their neck, and yet it takes up an arcane slot instead of an accessory slot.
I didn't notice that. That's actually pretty funny.
Yeah, it's an item and a charm. It is kind of weird.
Yeah, it's an item and a charm. I don't know.
I guess they were like, oh, it's like a magic thing. You know, it doesn't conflict with you also having a lucky cigarette case around your neck, or however that works.
It's just weird to me. In that case, it's weird that it is an item, if that's the case. But
I guess because it's like Mystic and Survivor, they're like, oh, the Mystic part of it is it's an arcane slot, you know, and a charm.
It's a charm.
And the Survivor part of it is it helps deal with damage and horror, you know.
I think if you're a Mystic, you probably need your arcane slots, or there's a good chance you do, and you can just play Deny Existence. If you're a Survivor, I mean, you probably still have better options, but like, if Bob really wants to just hand out items to people, it could be a pretty good synergy enabler because it's like a 2-class card. So like you could be Bob, you could like give this to like a Seeker, and then their Join the Caravan is like really cheap.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. We're kind of stretching here, but like
it's true. It could help enable synergy because you can hand it out. I guess Calvin might like it because it's a way he can go to maximum Calvin mode, and it's another way to protect himself.
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
You know, he only needs so many of those cards in his deck, but it's an option.
I feel like there were definitely fewer Calvin cards this cycle, this entire set, than there typically are. So we're kind of making up for that a little bit at the end.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, like Dexter can play this fast if he needs the fast asset to play to get something into play that he doesn't really care about too much. There's some use for it. I don't think it's bad. I think it's an interesting card. Like Diana can use this to put it under her in case she's in dire straits or whatever.
Yeah, only 6 cards with Spirit on them.
Wait, is Diana a member of the band Dire Straits? Is that what you're saying? No,
could be.
That was my turn to make a really terrible joke. Anything else to say about Talisman of Protection?
Yeah,
farewell. We'll see you never.
I tried to put in Lily and I gave up because Lily needs ways to turn on the Dragon Pole. You need like fast arcane slots that are cheap, and like this was like one of the only options.
Is this really good for Daniela in some cases?
And you know what happened, Ben? Eventually, you gave up and you said, "Screw it, hammer time." And you just said,
"That is what I did." I mean Daniela, because she takes damage and horror, but there's other stuff that might be okay. Like as a level 0 card, you rotate out just initially or something. I don't know.
Oh sure, like Peter and Jess.
I guess it's like as Diana, you would really like to play Spiritual Resolve, but you can't. So like this is another arcane slot item you can play. I guess.
As Daniela. I guess did we mention Diana though? Because I mean this is something that Diana could tuck, but I guess it only triggers when you're about to die.
Which is basically dead.
So,
yeah.
So maybe not.
Yeah.
So, I'm going to the next card.
All right. So the next one is Unscrupulous Load.
Yes.
It is a rogue survivor asset, so you know it's going to be good. It is level 3, cost 0. It's a pact. And it says, limit 1 per investigator, cannot leave play. Reaction. After you play Unscrupulous Loan, gain 10 resources. Wow. Forced. When the game ends or you are eliminated, if you have fewer than 10 resources in your resource pool, exile Unscrupulous Loan.
I'm going to say right now, this is S tier for standalone.
Yeah. Fair.
Played it in Preston and standalone Blob. Holy hell, this thing gives you so much money.
It's kind of, I mean, I was at first kind of like a little confused about how good this would be, but if you're a big money deck and you're just trying to have a lot of money to turn on your bullshit, to turn on like, the fan and like money talks and stuff like that, like you're not necessarily going to like get 10 resources and then spend it all. You're going to like get 10 resources so you can eventually get up to 30 and then spend a lot, but also gain a lot. This is like exactly the card that deck wants.
Yeah. Yes. I think this is very good for big money decks. It could be fun as a gamble card if you're like trying to get you want to play stuff early, but then you don't need money as much later in the game, so that you can just rebuild it. But big money decks is where it's going to shine.
Yeah,
it's also I mean I kind of like that. Like the worst thing that can happen is you're basically out 3 XP, which is definitely bad. But maybe this is the last scenario of the campaign. maybe you have XP and you don't have much else to spend it on because you're a survivor.
You
Like
have deja vus to soften the blow.
Maybe you have deja vu and you're doing exile tribal. Like there's a lot of situations where that's just not that bad, and it's not like taking the O-ball where like if you mess up with the O-ball you just lose the game and you're dead. This is like, again, you're out a few XP, and maybe it's the last scenario. Maybe you don't even care. That makes this seem like pretty good to me.
Can we agree that this card should just be called like Super Devil Money? Because that's what this is, right? This is also a pact.
You're making a pact with the bank, so is that worse than devil?
That's in most cases worse than devil.
I think devil money is like you kind of like, handshake deal with the devil that you're gonna like do something kind of bad and he's gonna like hand you a little bit of cash. This is like the devil is like investing. The devil is like your angel investor in your like A series whatever. Like you and the devil are like in a partnership now, I think, or something.
Yeah. Although maybe is this like an illegal loan? Is it actually with a bank, or is it with like a mob or something like your?
It's an unscrupulous loan. So it's not scrupulous. That's what that means.
Okay.
No, but I think for real, this card is like kind of before this card came out, other rogues and even just other investigators would have a really hard time doing big money. Other than like Preston, I've seen Tody get to pretty high numbers, and Jenny,
I guess. Yeah.
This card alone can definitely elevate other people to do big money stuff. Like 0 for 10 is a ridiculous amount of money. I kind of got into thinking about more cards in terms of like how much, because big money cards, there's a lot of big money that you need to hit a certain threshold for, right? So for Black Fan, for example, it costs 3 to play, and then you need to be at 10 to get its first benefit, 15 to get its second one. So it's offsetting that goal even a little bit. This doesn't even offset that goal a little bit. Like you don't even need to have any money to do that. And the differential between this card is just nuts. Like this just fulfills everything. Like you're gonna set up your rig, right? Which might cost like a gun, maybe an ally, which would be like maybe 8 or something like that. This completely offsets that and then some. And then this is the class rogue that has access to Faustian Bargain too. So like you have 4 cards in your deck that give you $30. That's so much money.
I've traditionally I've been pretty skeptical of like the just have a lot of big money decks, just because I don't think like Well Connected or Money Talks are that great for payoffs. But the fan, they just printed the fan, which is pretty serious. Yeah. So like it's definitely worth. Yeah, that's worth like a reevaluation of this. Here's my question though. So if you're a rogue and you're gonna spend 3 XP on this, are you sure you shouldn't get Another Day Another Dollar instead? Like how would you compare those two cards?
Porque no los dos.
well, no, but I'm saying like which one do you go for first?
I would say this
because this is pretty good, but this is like if you screw up, you might lose it. You have to actually find it. You can only play 1 per. It has no icons on it, and you can only play 1 per game. You can still have 2 in your deck, right? But if you do, you kind of spent XP just to put something in your deck that you can't play or commit. I guess that's another good question. Would you get 2 of these?
Yes.
Knowing that you can only play 1 and there's no icons on it.
Oh, it's the one per best guy. I didn't even notice.
Depends. Yeah, depends how good your draw engine is. If you have a good draw engine, then you just get 1, I think, and you'll eventually draw it.
Yeah.
To your first question, I kind of feel like Another Day on $1 is going to provide a little bit more consistency to your setting up. Maybe if you're like Savina or someone that like gets to look at a large chunk of their deck, maybe you pick this up first because there's a good chance they can get it, or someone else, if there's anyone else that has a better mulliganing. I guess. Is there a way that you can what if you
give it to somebody?
Not really. On the card itself. You can teamwork it, right?
Or something? They could. Well, actually,
but that wouldn't do it. No, you could play this teamwork it to someone else. They have to
play another one.
That would be like the Zedru decks in Magic, where they like give you a thing that if it goes away you lose or something.
This is like you play an unscrupulous loan, give it to somebody else, then play your second unscrupulous loan. That's the money right there.
I don't really. I don't really know the answer of whether you should get this before Another Day, Another Dollar. I feel like I would lean towards getting Another Day, Another Dollar first, but I don't play this type of deck, so I don't really know. I don't think I would play two of these. As good as it is, I think I probably would still only play one, just because the cost of something in your deck, unless you're playing like Cornered or something, maybe then you'd play two. But the cost of having something in your deck that is like a completely dead card after the first one is, I would probably only play one of these, but I don't know. Maybe that's wrong.
What if you're playing a rogue deck with the new rogue permanent, where you can only have one of every card in your deck, but you have 25 cards?
Yeah,
well,
then
it's an easy decision for you. Yeah.
Right. So like, you have a good chance of getting it early with that. It could be interesting at least. All right, let's move on to the last set of cards, which I'm gonna attempt to read through as fast as possible.
So many cards.
So the last set of cards that we have are the tri-class talent cards. So we got 5 cards. Each one has 3 classes that can access it, and they're all templated very similarly. So I'm just going to read Prophetic, which is Guardian Mystic Survivor. It's cost 3, and it's 3 experience. It's an asset. Has 2 willpower icons, and it's a talent. The effects on all of these cards is uses 2 resources. Replenish these resources at the start of each round. And then resources on Prophetic may be spent to pay for Fortune, Spell, or Spirit cards. And then it has a free trigger during a skill test on a Fortune, Spell, or Spirit card. You can spend a resource off of Prophetic. You get +1 skill value for this test. And then all these cards are very similar. So Sleuth is Guardian, Seeker, Mystic. It has intellect icons on it. And it's used for Charm, Tactic, or Tomes. Bruiser is Guardian, Rogue, Survivor with combat icons on it, and it's used on armor, firearms, or melee cards. Crafty, Seeker, Rogue, Survivor, 2 agility icons, and it's used on insight, tool, or trick cards. And finally, we have Antiquary, which is Seeker, Rogue, Mystic. It has a single willpower icon on it, and it is used on favor. Wild icon, and is used on favor, relic, or ritual cards. So I think, like, to discuss all these, it's really all about like whether the keyword that's on it, the trait, if you have like if there's a good amount of those cards, like enough that you'll like play a lot of them in your deck, so that you can trigger this often enough. And even better if there's also like assets that you like trigger to do a test on, because then you can also use it to get skill boosts. So do any of these cards stand out as ones that are like, oh yeah, this is like really good a lot of the time? Or
I think so. These cards at face value are very just kind of okay. Like, they're not explicitly great for resource generation. They're not explicitly great for like pumping skills, because they have to be those things specifically. The other part about this that shines is that they're triple class, which means that synergy is turned on very easily. Right? Mm-hmm. Like if you have this in, for example, the one that I was considering was Prophetic in Carolyn, because she has access to a weirdly high number of spells and spirits, which actually kind of makes it okay to play. Also, she's probably one of the investigators. She has access to the most permanents like natively, where they're not her color. So she has like, and I'm not talking about Lola. We're just talking about like Shrewd Analysis, which is something that she really likes already, and also, well, I guess Rabbit Hole. But you can also take one of the Arcane Research on her, so that automatically puts her at 2, and then if you play this, you get the 3rd one or 3 or whatever. That could be useful for her. I tried Crafty and Winnie because I was using lockpicks and Pilfer level 3, so you could just keep recurring it every turn and you keep getting the value off of Crafty, which is good. But these cards, like, depending on when you play them in the game, it really, really matters. If you play this like turn 1 or turn 2, that's great. It's probably going to generate you some value, but this is really a long-term sort of a card where like you really need to have this consistently getting you value every turn or every 2 turns, like for it to even be worth it.
Yeah, I mean, just looking at the cost reduction, it's 2 resources every turn. If you can get it, play it, it's an action, 3 resources. So in order to like get a net gain of it, you have to like play 3 cards, right, and get the discount. That's assuming you don't want the skill bonus. If you're also getting the skill bonus, then it's got more value. I think some of them you might just ignore the skill power bonus and just try to use it to play stuff cheap. Like the insight one, that's like all seeker events, right?
Right. Well, even then, even if you're saying, okay, this is giving me like a net value on money, you still have to compare it against just other money cards you could play that are less complicated, where the sequencing isn't as dicey. Like because this you really have to get it. It's like Robes of Endless Night, which is a card that seems pretty good, and then we tried playing it and we were like, oh, this actually sucks.
Right.
Like this is kind of similar, where like it's a money card that is a lot worse if you don't play it very early, and it's a pretty big upfront cost, like $3 for a card that initially doesn't do very much. Like you kind of have to like play it early and definitely be very confident that you're going to be able to activate it a lot, right? And
yeah.
I just offhand, the one that seems like potentially the most reliable is Bruiser, just because like if you're a guardian, you can get the skill bonus every time you activate your like, because basically every weapon is like a firearm or melee pretty much, right?
Yeah.
So like at the very least it's going to hopefully save you a few bucks. It's probably going to pay for itself, plus it's going to give you a little bonus every turn that you're fighting stuff. The rest of them you might be able to use them as reliably, but it's really going to depend on your deck. And I think I think there might be a lot of decks where it's just like none of these is really worth playing.
Yeah, I think the synergy thing is pretty explicitly like the reason why you want these.
Or you really want to turn on synergy stuff.
Synergy's a decent reason. I think a couple of them do stand out. Like the prophetic has both has spell on it. I mean, you mentioned like Robes of Endless Night wasn't as good. It has a similar effect to Robes of Endless Night, except it's a bigger discount, right? Robes is only -1, I think.
1. Yeah.
Yeah.
But the spirit Calvin runs a ton of spirit cards. Nathaniel, all his cards are also spirit cards.
This is something I wanted to talk about. Why the hell is Nathaniel the only guardian that doesn't benefit from Bruiser, but benefits from Prophetic more than Bruiser, even though he is the most Bruiser guardian in the game?
Well, I think are none of his events melee? No, I guess it's all assets.
All of them are spirits. He can't even use it on Boxing Gloves, because Boxing Gloves doesn't have its own fight event.
But is it at least a melee card? It's not.
He can use this to pay for his Boxing Gloves. Yes,
it's not.
But that's it.
Boxing Gloves is not a melee card.
It is a melee card, but you don't take a test on the card.
Right.
You just take a fight action.
No, It doesn't have the melee trait, is what I'm telling you. It's an item and a weapon. It doesn't. It's not.
Oh, it doesn't have a melee trait too.
Yeah.
Biggest Nombo.
So he gets
don't take this in that annual show.
Well,
don't take Bruiser anyway.
Again, not Bruiser, but Prophetic for Nathaniel could be pretty good if he gets it down early. It's a lot of money. That could save him, because almost all of his cards are spirit cards. Same for Calvin. Right. I was trying to look at other ones if there's ones that stand out. I think a lot.
Just the way that they've kind of split up the different traits is kind of weird. Like it's weird that Antiquary has like Relic and Ritual, but Prophetic has Spell. Like it's if there was one that was like Relic, Ritual, and Spell, I feel like that would maybe be much more appealing to like Mystics.
Yeah, but you'd think that Antiquary would have Charms, right?
Well, I think it's like they tried to they tried to like match they tried to kind of match the classes, I think, and kind of like spread them out in an interesting way, which is cool. But I feel like most of these cards, like if you put it in your deck, you're really mostly going to care about one of these traits.
Yeah, that's kind of what I think. Like, I think it's like if your deck has a lot of these traits already, you might throw it in there. Like Sleuth has Tome on it, so like Daisy might want to run it, or especially like Parallel Daisy. No, you're shaking your head, Dan. Yeah, well,
I think how many you might only play like 2 tomes the entire time you're playing Daisy.
Well, Parallel Daisy, you want to play like a bunch of them. That's more what I was thinking. But you have to just do a cost evaluation. It's like, if I get this down early, which I think is the assumption, because I think if you draw it late, it's like, okay, I'm coming in for 2 skills. But if you draw early, can you actually have cards that you will play that you get the discount? I think it's just what you got to think about when you're going to put in your deck. And if you're thinking about going to put in a deck, maybe when you build your deck, you might switch a card or two in that also benefits from it. So
yeah,
do. I like the art on Prophetic quite a bit.
Yeah,
too.
that was one of my favorite ones from the set. Definitely very cool.
It's a real. Please make a plane out of this, but they won't. Kind of an art. But
yeah. Crafty is a child with a laser. Sure.
The Crafty reminds me of like Klaus from a series of Unfortunate Events. The right. nerdy science guy like builds stuff, you know.
Yeah, Crafty is interesting because like you're wanting to play it with insights, right? You're like, ooh, Seekers have so many insights. I can play this with every insight. But all of the good insights either cost 0 or are
all
fast.
Seeker cards are free and fast.
Or there's no like tests involved. I guess you could use it for like hunches. So, but like if you're playing Joe, he's already getting a 2 discount, and like most of the like it's just like it's a little bit of a numbo there. But I did play Crafty with Winnie, and it did work for me in Pilfer and lockpicks, so that was kind of neat.
Yeah, well, I was gonna say that's a trick, right? So does this somehow make Rita playable? Is there enough tricks that she can put in her deck that are too expensive to normally play? Like, isn't there like the 5 cost survivor card that's a trick? The one that lets you like evade everything. No, it's not even a trick.
Cunning distraction.
It's not a trick. God, it's just a card she can take. Damn it. Yeah, I don't know. So, I think they're worth thinking about because I think it'd be fun to like have a recording resource and have that be like your main money source. But
I'm excited for Dane and I to have a reason to use our recurring credit tokens from Netrunner. That's gonna be fun.
Oh, never mind. Yeah. These cards are garbage.
haven't used those since Mumba Temple and a bunch of other random cards.
I think that one thing that's really nice about these cards is that like considering that Edge of the Earth is like the first big box expansion and you know people are going to be getting the new core set, they might go for Edge of the Earth right now first anyways. These are really good teachers of like how resources work, right? Like how you should be spending your money and what you should be spending it on, because these can be good if you get them early on and you have enough stuff to fuel the rest of your deck with it. But if you're taking this because there's some stuff in your deck, you might get some value out of it. It'll very quickly teach you that this doesn't feel good to play early. There's sort of like the action of playing it, then like how many actions you're taking doing these specific things. You need to calculate that payoff and if that's realistic for you or not. So I think that's really cool for these cards, and the fact that they work so well with synergies is why I like them.
Well, let's so these are the last cards. We've already been going for a while, but should we quickly segue to just talk about now that we've talked about all these cards, what are our kind of overall impressions of this Investigator expansion, and what do we think of Edge of the Earth player cards as a whole? Maybe?
Yeah, I was thinking that like. Just coming off what Dane said, like the fact that there's so many multi-class cards, that is very nice for people just jumping into the game because it does give them a kind of much bigger card pool than if they bought another expansion. Although maybe the multi-class cards aren't as strong as like pure class cards, but they're still a lot of them are pretty decent. But yeah, as a whole, this did dump a lot of cards. I think maybe. A lot of the cards, I think we kind of ruled like, oh, this is very good in a very specific situation, and there weren't as many cards that are like generically good, which I think that's fine. Like, it's not very interesting if we just always get cards that are generically good and they replace whatever the last slightly worse version of that card is, right? That's good for like the game's growth, to have like more interesting choices when you deck a build. So
yeah,
I definitely.
I'm not sure if we got any. I'm not sure if we got any kind of like really staple cards like Deny Existence or Lucky that just kind of go in like every deck that can play them. But I mean that's kind of okay. We usually only get maybe like 1 or 2 of those per campaign anyway. And if we go back and look, maybe there are.
Well, that's not true. The hammer is like the upgraded card to get now.
Well, that's true, but the fact that it is a really. The fact that it is like a high XP card that is like for one specific role kind of like limits what decks will play it. But yeah, I get what you're saying.
Yeah. I think that there's a lot of like inventiveness and creativity and a lot of edges, of card design that were explored in this that we definitely didn't have before. Like things like Old Shotgun, right? And like the tri-class talents. I never thought I'd see tri-class things in this game. I didn't even know if we would see like upgraded gold cards, which is wild to me that they exist, but they do. And it's really neat the amount of deck building that this allows for. My issue personally with the set is that when I'm building decks, I've built probably about 25 decks at this point, and like,
Is that all?
and like every time I go, I like actually start a campaign, I'm like, my arms are full, and I'm like, I want to playtest this, I want to playtest this, I want to playtest this, and I can't playtest all of them, so I have to like, pace myself and test things slowly. But that's not an actual criticism at all. I love the fact that they gave us even like the starter permanents, right, where they really modify the way that you're gonna think about like the rest of your deck is great, even for beginners, because it really makes you think about how your deck is going to evolve, etc. Yeah, so I think that the set for me overall is a huge win in terms of player cards.
I think they did a good job of putting in cards that appeal to like I don't really like the kind of like card game player archetypes thing because it's kind of reductive, but like they put in the kind of like Timmy cards like the hammer that are just like really fun, powerful seeming cards that are gonna like feel great to use. They put in the kind of like complicated, kind of like powerful like engine cards like Eon Chart. They put in the kind of like cards that maybe are not actually that great, but they're kind of like very thematic. So even something like what was the one we talked about earlier? Like Old Shotgun, maybe.
Yeah.
They put in the cards that are kind of like a yeah. They put in the cards that are kind of like maybe not that great because they're kind of hard to use, but it could be kind of like a fun challenge to build a deck around them. So I think that's pretty neat. I think that we're 5 years into the game and like there's still a ton of design space, and it really seems like the design team is firing on all cylinders, and like they know how to make interesting cards, and I think that's great.
Yeah, as mentioned in chat, Bangle of Jinxes came in this set, right? So
that is true. We did, yeah. We got Bangle of Jinxes, and for that we should all be very grateful.
Bangle of Jinxes is truly a blessing for everybody's mouths who play this game.
It's not actually a blessing; it's a Bangle of Jinxes.
Yeah.
If it were a blessing, it would be called Blessing of Jinxes, but it's not. It's Bangle.
It is a Bangle. That is right. Yeah. So I think pretty positive for at least for the player cards. We're all playing through the campaigns. Some of us soon, so we'll be into that.
These cards actually came out in the U.S. At this point, and I think the campaign is coming out this week in a lot of places, sort of. I've heard mixed reports. So
asterisk.
At least in the US. I mean, it got released in like Canada and the UK a couple weeks ago, but I think at least the US, which is I think most of our audience maybe, will have an opportunity to play the campaign now. So excited about that.
Yeah. Well, we've been going for a while, so I think it's good enough to say that's it for cards today. But tomorrow at 7 p.m. EDT, Dan and I are going to be continuing our adventure through Return to the Circle Undone. So it'll be Friday, December 2nd for everybody who's listening later. We are going to be we're using the campaign tarot reading Destiny. It's been a pretty fun ride so far. We've had some stumbles, but we've also had some pretty cool moments. So we'd love for you to join us. If you're watching later, feel free to view it on YouTube or Twitch Archive, wherever you choose. If you have any feedback or questions for us, always feel free to email us at comments@mur.fm, and we'll read your message in a future episode. We are collecting questions if you'd prefer to send them over to us for a mailbag episode in the near future. So please feel free to send your questions over there if you want us to talk about some things. To stay current on what we're doing, follow us on social networks, including Instagram and Twitch, or join our Discord server. You can find the links to all these socials at social.mur.fm. If you really enjoy what we do and you want to get more involved, you can also become one of our patrons at patreon.com/Miskatonic University Radio, or just leave us a nice review on your favorite podcasting source. Thanks for listening, everybody. Thanks for joining us today in chat. And everybody, will catch you next time.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bangle of Jinxes.
Bangle of Jinxes.